I'm here with one of my favorite voices in the entire world, Miss Maiya Sykes. And I always say that, and it's true. I mean,
That's so sweet.
That was like, no, the moment that we heard you sing for the first time, it was at Hyde. You were doing that thing, and it was a Creep. I think Creep was the first.
Well, you
song
know the
sang.
story behind that, right?
No, but I think it was a Shoshana. Shoshana was probably involved.
Shoshana
right?
asked me to do this, thing, and she said, "Okay, here's a list of songs that we're gonna do."
Okay.
And I said, "Cool, I know these songs." And she was like, "Great, so you're gonna sing these 4 songs." But I had never heard of Postmodern Jukebox, or I just thought I was doing these 4
Right,
covers.
just like a cover, yeah.
So then, on the way to the gig, I looked up the versions, and like one of the songs was Fancy, and it had like a whole medley. So I literally was learning Fancy in the car, like, oh crap, there's like a medley and blah 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 blah. There's like a melody to the lyrics, whatever. So I was learning that, and then so I did the first 2 songs, and then in the break they were like, okay, so you're gonna do Creep, and I was like, I better listen to it, and I was like, oh crap, it's in 6/8, it's got this key change. So I literally learned it in the corner.
Oh my God.
Like 10 minutes before
I had no
did
idea.
it.
Like, I don't think anybody could
and
tell.
I was like terrified that it was like gonna suck, but I was like, at least it's a song I know. Like Fancy, I just kind of knew the rap, but I didn't know there was a whole melody that went with it, and I was literally learning it in the car.
No, it was amazing when you. You should learn more things in the car that way because it was
I learned
awesome.
most things in the car.
It's when you're a musician.
That's kind of your daily life. Like you just learn random songs, or you write random songs, like in cars.
Well, that's the thing. I think the difference that people don't understand about being a working musician, what it takes to be a working musician. I think that a lot of people have the wrong idea because of reality TV and stuff. But people have the idea that you're just kind of discovered with an amazing talent, and then they just push you, and then you're good. You're set.
Well,
but it's like you gotta hustle for so many years.
And I mean, for every 4 people that do really, really well on reality TV, there's 200 that were on the same show but got very, very little out of it.
Right.
And in a lot of those shows, they don't really teach you what to do after you have this exposure. I mean, you do have, to your advantage, the exposure of millions, but if you don't have the resources to capitalize on it or the wherewithal to do that, then it was just kind of a grand waste of your time.
Well, the wherewithal, I think that's a big thing, especially if you're really young and you're on one of those shows or something. I mean, how are you going to know? I mean, I don't know. I think I was an idiot when I was in my 20s, I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't have any career success until I was over 30. And it was just because I couldn't put the pieces together,
I still have no idea how the pieces fit together. I just keep showing up and trying. I don't have any.
That's like 90% of it.
I don't have any secrets here, but I can tell you, I mean, I was on another one of those shows contacted me, and for 4 months they had me submit videos and do this and do that, and then they didn't take me.
Oh,
so it wasn't a waste of time. I just had to learn that I couldn't be super invested in it because it might not pan out, but I still tried to treat it with as much professionalism as I had, but not be wedded to this idea that there's some show that's going to wave a magic wand and make me a star.
Right.
This is all a part of, submitting videos and, taping auditions and learning songs. It's part of the gig.
It's
so
a
when you
full-time
learn
job,
how to, that's a part of your career, you learn how to make that a part of your daily life. And I think in your 20s, I think the advantage that 20-year-olds have today that we probably didn't when we were in our 20s is that social media is everywhere, really prevalent and easy to access. When we were coming up, social media was just on the verge of beginning. So
I had a MySpace. It was very big on MySpace.
I had a total MySpace account.
Did you have the thing where it played a song?
Absolutely.
Did you have it where it was your own song?
It was my own song.
I did that too.
And I thought I was so
shameless.
the bomb. I thought, do you understand? I thought I was so
Did you have like
killer.
the glitter animations, like the GIFs?
I had some of those. I kind of found those to make me a little too Japanese anime. It's kind of one of the reasons why I never really use Snapchat. Like, I don't think I need to look like a bunny or a fawn or whatever.
I don't think you're missing anything.
I've always wanted to use Snapchat just to say I did, but every time I see it, I'm like, this might not be my lane. But, if you're into Snapchat, like, no tea, no shade, no disrespect, like, Snapchat on, look like a bunny,
Just
and
go,
with twinkly eyes.
Use that dog filter.
Use the dog
Live
filter.
your best life.
Wag the tail. Wag the tongue. Do all the things.
But bringing up social media, do you think it's in some ways? Do you think the amount of distractions that, like, if you're a young musician or something like that, all these distractions you have to go on keeps you from actually working on your craft?
Well,
I think that's something.
Again, this is something I've struggled with my whole life. I've always had to micromanage my schedule or else I don't get anything done.
Yeah.
So I literally write out, like, you're going to sleep from here to here. You're going to
write in
practice.
sleep too?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
geez,
going to
things like that.
practice from here to here. You need to spend these 45 minutes looking at new pictures that you're going to post on the internet at some point, or plan out whatever, your thing is. Because I think that the farther along you get in social media, especially if you're in entertainment, there's a lot of planning that has to go into social media. Like, I don't wake up and go like, let me put on this cute filter while I'm getting coffee. Cheers, guys. Like, I'm not that person.
Right.
So I have to find a way to allow people into certain aspects of my life, but still keep certain aspects of my life my own. So
Right.
I have to write in when I work out, when I practice, when I write on songs, when I have gigs, when I'm gonna meet friends for coffee. I have to schedule those things and be really diligent about keeping my own schedule. And that's hard. But when you work in entertainment, even though you're working for a lot of different people, you're still really working for yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in mind, that you have to be accountable to you first. That's your goal.
Yeah, and that can be the toughest boss too.
Absolutely.
You can definitely, I don't know.
I want to fire myself like every other day.
Yeah, I know. I always talk about on here. I used to be such a perfectionist with things, and that prevented me from releasing anything or doing anything creative for a very long time. And it wasn't until I had like an accidental kind of viral thing on the internet, then I was like, all right, well, I just can't afford to be perfectionist, because otherwise you're disappointing fans. And I have to kind of frame it that way. It was like, well, people want to hear this, even if I don't think that something is the best thing that I've done. People want to hear it. You kind of owe that to.
And it also helps when you bring in outside people that don't think in the same way that you do, because
Right.
that's why you need producers and friends to help, because you
Yeah.
have to have somebody who goes, okay, you're being a nut.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many times where, and I think that's kind of part of the PMJ experience, I'm kind of releasing the take that I think is best, and sometimes singers can be a little perfectionist and being like, I don't think that was good. I don't think we should release this. I don't think, and I'm just like, trust me, it's going to be great.
I've never had that problem.
You've never. I was going to say that you're the one singer that we've had almost like the opposite, where it's like you do one take and you nail it, and then I'm like, you want to do another take? You're like, nah, I'm good. And then we're like, all right, well, we got the band here.
But I also want the band to feel like we got the, I'm like, does everybody like that?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't, music is not a monolith. Like, it's a group activity. So I don't want to release the take where I feel like I'm the only one that sounds good, but the rest of the band doesn't feel like they gave their best work. I want everybody to feel like they gave their best work. So I'm down to do it again.
Well, that is very evolved of you, because most people don't think that way. Like it's only natural. It's like when you're in a photograph, the first person you always look at is kind of yourself.
Sure.
It's like a natural.
But if you're putting out a product, you have to think beyond you.
Yeah.
It can't just be you sound good and the band sounds like crap, or the band sounds great and you sound like crap. Everybody has to sound good.
Right.
And everybody should feel like they aren't ashamed to give this to a family member or to a friend.
Totally.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if not, then you're not really making music. You're just making some self-serving psychobabble, and who cares?
Self-serving psychobabble. I think that's going to be the title of the new Maiya Sykes album. It's you can get it on iTunes or whatever it's now. iTunes is iTunes even around?
I
Is
heard
there no
iTunes is going to be done by 2019.
Oh, geez. All right. They're like phasing it out or something? What if you want to download an MP3? Because the Wi-Fi isn't everywhere.
Don't know. That's going to be, but again, that's a problem.
I don't even
know if it's
have the
problem with
premium
music.
Spotify. I
I
have the
have
one.
the-
It shows it runs ads all the time.
You know what? The only reason why I have the premium Spotify is because I can write it off on my taxes.
Oh,
So boom.
there you go. Huh, interesting.
Just saying.
Tax advice from Maiya
All
Sykes.
the things that I have that I pay subscriptions for,
Yeah.
I pay the subscription so I can write it off on my taxes.
Well, that's the one upside of being a freelancer.
You need certain write-offs. You need to, and it also gives me a sense of knowing that I'm supporting music in some kind of way.
Right.
You know, I'm not the biggest proponent of digital stuff versus non-digital stuff. You know, I think that music is in such a state of evolution. It's really hard to know what the next thing is going to be, but I like music. So I definitely want to say that I support that.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that's important. And I mean, I guess in terms of the evolution, I think the one thing that's constant is live music. You can't recreate that experience.
And it's a beautiful experience. It really touches
Yeah.
people in a way that still speaks to me. It still hasn't gotten old to me to perform live. It's just tougher to do these days. Like you have to do so much of it to equal, you know, even a half of the volume you do from licensing a song per se. So it's like, okay, do I perform 6 nights a week or do I write some, you know, mediocre song that I can license for $15,000 and perform twice a month? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're faced with these weird choices as a performing artist, but I still think in the long run, the more you get to do it live, the more you learn and the better the experience.
Absolutely. Well, I think that, you know, I think that that's one thing that strikes everybody when they see you perform and how much confidence you have on stage and how you just kind of, you know, you put yourself out there on stage in a way that only a performer that has done this for a very long time can do.
Well,
Because,
that's nice of you. Thank
you know, it's like anything else. I think that the first time, you know, you're learning your craft and you're learning how to sing and everything, but then you're also learning how to perform. And that's like a different thing. There are some people that can sing really well, but they can't necessarily perform, or they can't allow themselves to be vulnerable in front of an audience. Like that can be kind of like a learned thing.
For
And
sure,
people
for
can
sure.
have huge mental blocks on that
For
too.
sure. But I teach, and I teach at 2 schools, and I teach privately. And in one of the performance classes that I teach, I tell the singers, okay, go up on stage, introduce yourself to the band. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, these people are playing for you. Do you know who they are? Well, then go introduce yourself to them, right? These are your allies. This is your band of warriors.
Yeah.
If these people don't like you, they can allow you to crash and burn really quickly,
Yeah.
right? Support them, they'll support you. And you'll have a better, easier time if you're looking at this as not me, but us.
Totally.
You know what I mean? You'll get the best
Yeah.
out of it because all the musicians will rise to the occasion. They'll know that you have them in mind as well as you in mind, you know? And it makes a better performance for the audience because everybody's involved. To
Yeah.
me, that's the key, is if you can get everybody in the room involved, whether you're singing a happy idea, a sad idea, or a comedic idea, it's getting everybody in the room engaged. And you can't do that when half your stage isn't engaged.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's a huge point. I think that it goes for instrumentalists too. Like if you're, you know, I went to school for jazz for a second, and you know, there was kind of like an undercurrent of whenever there'd be a vocalist that was working with us, for being like, oh, this person's not a musician. You know, that there's for whatever reason, there's this divide between singers and musicians that shouldn't exist because it's a common, you know, everybody's working for a common goal. And kind of both parties need each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the converse is true too. Most instrumentalists think that singers are stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't help
what's
that so many singers are stupid.
What's that singer joke about? Like, what is it? I don't tell jokes because I always butcher them. But it's like the one about like there's a singer at the door, can't find the key, doesn't know when to come in or something.
Oh,
I don't know.
that one.
Just
but there's
Google
so
that.
many-
Google that and pretend I told you the
Yeah,
joke.
you know, and then report it back to me.
Yeah.
So that I know how the joke goes. Okay,
But but I guess that is something that, you know, singers have so much to keep in mind already, and the learning process for a singer is probably, I guess it's always been taught in a different way than it has been. They haven't been taught music theory as much, or there hasn't been the
well,
emphasis
you know what it
been
is?
put.
I think as a person who went to music school,
Yeah.
a lot of singers deuce out of learning music theory because it seems really daunting.
Yeah.
And I understand why it seems really daunting, because it's taught to you like an instrumentalist. It's not taught to you like a singer. And in the last 20 years, there have been some really great books that have come out that are designed to teach singers how to sight read and singers how to make lead sheets and things like this. And I think that those are worth a look, because even if you don't necessarily speak the language, even if you speak parts of it, it's like going to a foreign country. You might not know how to speak French, but if you can say, my name is this, and please and thank you, that gets you so much farther than if you know nothing.
Absolutely,
And the same is true for singers. I think if singers were more encouraged to look at, okay, I might not necessarily know how to play an instrument well, but can I play some basic chords? Do I have the basic idea, just so I can communicate, okay, I want a swing feel, you know, versus I want cut time. I think it's in this key, and I think that key's too high for me, so maybe we could go down a whole step. Just those little things get you in the ballpark so much quicker and get the respect of an instrumentalist so much quicker, so they're willing to work with what it is that you have, because they see that at least you have something.
And also kind of keep you protected too.
Yes.
If you know that a key is going to be too high for you, you're not going to agree to sing it in that key.
Exactly.
You know?
But if you go out blind and you have no idea, I've seen this happen so many times where a singer starts in one key and then tries to go to another key, and the piano player is like,
I've been on some of those gigs before.
Yeah, and it's not fun. It's not fun.
But it kind of, I don't know, it's definitely an interesting challenge, you know?
For sure.
That's definitely, I don't know, I kind of try to frame it that way. When you're a musician and you're dealing with like that kind of issue where it's like singer changes keys all of a sudden, or you know, there are certain songs that don't start on the root key.
Yeah, they don't start on the one, so you're like, okay, what do we do here?
Yeah, it's funny. It's just there was definitely a lot of late night gigs that I did back in,
oh my gosh,
you know, playing restaurants and things like that, where
I've had the converse.
Jazz odysseys.
I've had the converse happen where I'm like, okay, just play it in the original key, and they're like, but the singer I usually work with plays it in this key, and I'm like, yeah, but that key's weird. Like, why are you playing it in D flat? Like, who wants to play in D flat? It's a really hard key.
Instrumentals don't want to play in D flat.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, why are we doing this in D flat when we could just as easily do it in D? And everybody would be so much happier.
There we go. Let's play a song. Let's play it in not in D flat.
Okay, let's do that.
We'll do. So we talked about maybe doing some Police.
Yes.
A Message in a Bottle. All right. So I'll preface this that we never rehearse. We never fully rehearse these when we do them live.
We fly by the seat of our pants at all times.
Exactly. And this is something that, you know, if you're a musician, this is an important skill to learn. Sometimes you're not going to have music. Sometimes you're not going to have a rehearsal.
And sometimes you just got to roll with it.
Just got to roll with it.
I'm just a castaway, an island lost at sea. Another lonely day with no one here but me. More loneliness than any woman can bear. I'll send an SOS to the world. I'll send an SOS to the world. And I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that somebody gets mine. I hope someone gets mine. Message in a bottle, yeah. Message in a bottle, yeah. 1 year has passed since I wrote my note, but I should have known this right from the start. Only hope can keep me together. Sending out an SOS. Sending out an SOS. Sending out an SOS. Sending out an SOS. I'll send you a message.
Maiya Sykes, ladies and gentlemen. That was awesome.
Thanks. I forgot the third verse. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Don't apologize for that. That was incredible.
Thanks.
That was amazing.
That was a cool arrangement. I like what you did.
That was fun. That was just kind of on the spot, just in the moment.
Well, I always like that about you, is that you'll kind of noodle around with an idea and kind of allow it to form.
Yeah, I try to make it as
that's jazz, you know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I try to make it as give and take, you know, and that sometimes you hear something and I don't know. I think you kind of an underrated thing in music, like in terms of musicianship, is empathy. You
For
kind of
sure.
have to.
You've got to listen
feel-
to each other and feel what the other
Right.
person feels. And to me, that's the dialogue. A lot of
Yeah.
times people are so worried about what they have to say, they don't engage in the dialogue. And it's a dialogue. It's you do this
Right.
here and I respond back in kind, and then you respond in this way.
Exactly, which I feel like is, you know, to make it even a bigger picture, like that's kind of the problem with all those, you know, when you see like cable news shows and it's just people that go on and they have 30 seconds to prove a point.
Right.
And they just yell at each other. and
Well,
they don't
but
listen.
that's kind of our whole
Society.
country at the moment,
Yeah.
is that we have taken away the skill set of being able to receive information, digest it, and formulate your own opinion, right? So everything is a talk point versus another talk point. It's not, okay, I read these articles and you read these articles, and we might not disagree, but let's have a discussion about it, and the best point will emerge.
Right.
We've kind of lost that as a society, and
completely
it's kind of
gone, yeah.
sad because I was talking to a person the other day about how they were boycotting this show because it was done by a person who was a Trump supporter. And I said, look, the minute we get into the I'm boycotting this for these reasons, it's one thing if you say I'm boycotting this because they supported an amendment or something that suppressed a whole bunch of people. But I can't go against you for having a different political belief than I do. We'll never
Right.
get anything done.
No, you can't. You can't. That's just it gets silly at a certain point where you
We
know you
still
have to,
need to know what the other person has to say.
Absolutely,
And if we
absolutely.
completely X out the people with whom we disagree, all we'll have is a bunch of people who are already converted. You know what I mean? You'll never
Right.
get
Echo
anywhere,
chambers, yeah.
because you'll just never ever meet anybody outside of your way of life.
Totally.
It's
Well,
not gonna
let me
work.
ask you this way: how much do you think is technology that? Because that's the way that we interact. Like when you interact online with somebody, I mean, I'm in the trenches in terms of YouTube comments and stuff like that. People just say crazy stuff to each other, and there's no real. It's like people don't even imagine that there's another person watching, or they're not. It's different when you talk to somebody
Because
Like
you have
when
to take their feelings into
Right.
consideration, and I think that technology is wonderful in the aspects of being able to access so much information, but I think it's also making us have way, way shorter attention spans. So it's hard, a lot of times when you read YouTube comments, you'll see one person with a diatribe of an idea versus a person
Those
who's
are my favorites.
Those are they're so hilarious.
They're so funny.
Oh my God, they're so funny. And it's so funny because I was watching this TV show. I forget what the TV show was, but it was talking about this girl who was trolling people on the internet. And she was like, well, this person thinks that they're so great and da-da-da. And the whole comment was, you would never say this to this person's face. You feel safe behind a computer, so you can say something mean-spirited or nasty or whatever.
It's like
but
road
you would
rage.
never say that to a person directly because it defies the laws of social convention. But as technology goes further and further and further, the laws of social convention seem to be getting more and more recessed.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big thing. I think that, like, have you ever seen that kind of thing where you're on Facebook and it's like two people that you know that are, and you know them, they're friends, and they get into like a Facebook argument, but it gets way meaner.
It gets way meaner and personal and undercut.
They like unfriend each other, and then you're like, if you guys were in person having this discussion, there's no chance it would get to that level, because it's like, and the same thing with, I don't think it's even people that are afraid to say things to people's face. I think it's more of, when have somebody face to face, your instinct is not to be a jerk most of the time,
Well, and even if you're angry, your instinct is to say, rah, 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 I'm angry at you, reaction.
Yeah.
Part of it is that you don't have the benefit of having that person's reaction be something you can see. It's a reaction you have to wait for as they type furiously with a bunch of, misspelled words and emojis and blah, 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 And it's hilarious because the more social media takes over, the less we have the ability to spell.
It's true. No, you know what they should, words like definitely, there's like a new there's like a new spelling of it, because so many people spell it wrong. And it's,
I heard that they're adding supposedly to the dictionary, and I'm like, I refuse. I refuse.
But I guess you can make the argument that that's how language always was.
I'm sure you can. And
like language
also
evolved,
are reverting
like
back
old
to
English,
hieroglyphs. It seems like.
Well, that's a real thing, yeah. Like, if you can use emoji to express something rather than a sentence.
But that's the problem, is that we've decided that you can use an emoji or or some kind of sign or some kind of small edited video to be able to express a really complicated idea.
Yeah. Did you know, off topic, but did you know Apple has a middle finger emoji?
Shut the front door. I had no clue.
Look on your phone.
I
don't know if it was just my phone. Well, forget it then. But there's a middle finger emoji, and so that seems crazy to me. I remember I guess nothing's really shocking anymore. I remember being a kid. That was like the worst thing you could.
That was like the worst thing you could do. Yeah. But it's so funny that when I was a kid, the worst thing you could do is now become commonplace.
Right. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
even just the amount of cursing that you can do on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, that's changed
I
too.
remember the first time somebody used not like a mild curse word. It was like on cable.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a big deal because it wasn't
keep
on
talking, keep going.
Hi, Zeus. As technology evolves, we kind of evolve with it slowly.
We do, don't we? We do. I'm on the very slow end of that.
I'm on the very, very slow end on that, so don't feel bad.
All right, I feel better now.
Because I'm like, I'm trying to be less technologically challenged in my life, but man, it just seems, what it is that the minute I get the hang of something, there's some newfangled thing that costs thousands of dollars more, and now I've got to relearn that, like the whole skill set.
That's, every music, piece of music equipment is like that.
Every time. Like every time I get Logic and update it, it's like I have to relearn it all over again.
Right, yeah. Oh, it's the worst. But I guess, we had the benefit, at least, of growing up with technology. I played Oregon Trail when I was a kid. It was awesome.
I went to one of the first schools that had integrated computers in the classroom, and we were adopted by Apple Computers.
Oh, really?
So I grew up in a school where we had Apple computers.
Was it with the floppy disks?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you could make little fish cartoons and get them to talk. It was like a whole big deal.
Awesome, yeah.
So I literally grew up. I was probably one of the first generations that grew up with computers in the classroom, and it was a huge deal at the time.
Yeah. No, I think about.
I'm old.
My parents are pretty good with, they're emailing. My mom's got an iPad. She does her own live
My
stream
mother's
show.
so much better with technology
really?
than I am, like so much better. And she's got all the, I bought it, but I mean, she's got all the latest newfangled thing. Like she's got an iPad, she's got a Surface Pro 4, she has a dope computer, she can edit things, like she's really good at it.
And she's a singer too, right?
Yeah, my mom used to sing, but mostly she does theater. She does theater arts.
Okay, so has that kind of helped? I guess if you're in a young profession like that, you know, you're kind of, I don't know, I mean, you're probably going to use more iPads in general.
Sure. I mean, I think you're going to use what is portable because, you know, I think that the way that society is shaped up, we're so on the go now.
Yeah.
So you need things on the go.
Yeah, totally. Now, actually, I want to go back to your parents because your parents were both musicians.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that's like probably no surprise to people. Like people would think like, oh, of course.
Maybe. I mean, I definitely grew up with a very unconventional background.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up with my dad in the house, but he definitely found ways to rear me musically. So he would tell me to listen to certain things and memorize certain solo sections. And he would have me analyze music in a specific way.
Wow.
And he always would turn me on to very complicated musical ideas that I probably wouldn't have gotten a hold of had it not been for my dad. But my mother also had a very eclectic music taste.
Yeah.
And she was really great about getting me lessons for things and keeping me around a bunch of musicians. So I think the one benefit that I did have that a lot of people didn't was I knew working musical professionals my whole life. So it never was out of my realm of thought that I couldn't, you know, that I wasn't going to be a professional musician. I always thought that that was a capable thing because I saw people lugging equipment to gigs and, you know. In fact, one of my mentors just recently passed away, was an incredible drummer named Ndugu Chancellor, and I remember seeing him as a kid, you know, taking his drums, and he played the iconic drum beat on Billie Jean, and people thought it was a drum machine. Yeah, people thought it was a drum machine, and it was really him.
Because it sounds like, because they probably made drum machines to emulate that.
Yeah, and I mean, but Ndugu Chancellor was a studied musician in every aspect. He wasn't just a drummer. He played different percussive instruments. He played piano. He knew arrangement. And when I was a kid, and I actually had just finished school, he was like, well, how's your reading? And I was like, well, it's okay. And he gave me this paradiddles book, and he would quiz me on it all the time. Really? Yeah. So I still have the paradiddles book, and he'd be like, okay, chapters 2, figure 3. And I would just have to like sit there and like clap
like a
along.
Drum pad or something
yeah,
like
I'd
that?
clap along.
Wow.
And he'd be like, you missed this measure, do it again.
So was that fun for you, or were you at the age, like, did you ever go for a point, because you were surrounded by music so much, were you ever like, oh, I don't want to do this music stuff because it's everywhere in my life?
I think because I was surrounded by so many different kinds of people, intellectuals, musicians, actors, producers, I'd never really thought that there was a limitation to what I could study. And I was so interested in books, really. I just wanted to read everything. So I always knew that I wanted to get the most education I could. And I mean, secretly, I do nerdy things. Like I take online courses.
I don't think people know this, but you were a triple major at Yale,
Yeah,
right?
I was, yeah. And
What
that was a bad idea. Don't do that.
Don't do it, kids. What were your 3 majors?
Political science, African American studies, and music composition.
Yeah.
At Yale, you can only, if you want to take any of the upper level music courses, you can't do so unless you're a music major, and you can only major in composition at the undergrad level.
Oh, okay. All right, I see. And then, that kept you really busy then.
Well, yeah, and I also had 3 jobs. Don't do that either. But I was just working really hard to try to stay there.
Yeah.
Which was tough, but very character building because I didn't think it wasn't possible. I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't think it was impossible. And I think having that frame of mind has been very helpful. Things get tough, you know, and things definitely can feel impossible. You can definitely feel the frustration of, oh my God, I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm never going to get anything done. I feel like that every other day. But showing up and doing your best moves you forward in some way.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think that's the mental toughness that you need as a performer, or I guess really as a human being in general. I mean, that's something that is probably the most valuable trait. If there's a character trait you can develop, it's just being able to have that kind of mental toughness. And
also, when you throw yourself into things, you don't realize how hard it is until it's over.
Right.
I had no idea how hard.
So when you look back at school, you're like, wow, how did I
have no idea how I accomplished that. And I remember when I graduated from college, I was going to do this internship, but I had 3 months off before I was going to go.
Yeah.
And I slept for 3 months.
Wow.
My mom said she would just like check and see if I was still alive and like slide me some food. And
under the door,
I'd kind of take a bath like every couple of days. And I'd go right back to sleep. I was exhausted.
I bet. I mean, so that was 4 years? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, it was 4 years.
That is a lot.
And then I did an internship, and then I temped in New York for like 4 months, and then I won this fellowship to go study in England, so I went there for a year. Mm-hmm. And I actually left New York and came back to LA to do the internship a month before 9/11.
Wow.
And everybody in my department died.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. I was lucky in that all of my friends from college, like my really good friends, all made it out okay. Yeah. But there were definitely people I knew in college and I never saw again. Like I remember one of my girlfriend's roommate, they never even found her remains.
Oh my God.
And so it was a weird time in history. And I never know how to quite rectify that in my mind, because I think every generation has their
like that?
Exactly.
You know?
I don't. I mean, there were so many incredible stories that came out of it. There was a friend of mine from college named Tom Lowe. Hi, Tom Lowe. And he carried a woman down like several flights of stairs and got out of the building and helped his entire department go to safety. Just on instinct. Like he had good instinct and it kicked in that day.
Wow.
And, now he's a doctor with a lovely family, but that could have gone a totally different way.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's weird to think that exists, that if you zig instead of zag, like your life could be over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I was very young at the time, and the thing that I remember the most was being in LA, watching it on TV, and then 2.5 weeks later, the first plane I ever saw, because remember they grounded all these flights, nobody could go anywhere.
Wow, yeah.
And it was eerie seeing the first plane in the air after that 2-week mark. I remember that so vividly.
The whole thing was very surreal. Yeah, I was a freshman, I think, in college when that happened. It was a very surreal time. It was something where you saw it on TV and you didn't even think it was real.
You didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
And every generation has their one traumatic event that they will remember for years to come and defines the generation. And I definitely think that was mine.
Yeah, and I guess it's almost like a marker of generations in the sense that, I guess, what is it, Gen Z? I don't know the
Me either.
acronyms. I don't even know. Gen Z, I think they're the ones that are like, teenagers now. Around that age. I mean, they wouldn't even remember it. Because it was before their time.
And soon it'll probably be, a national holiday where people have barbecues and stuff. Like, I mean,
who knows?
Things change. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we celebrate a whole bunch of stuff today that started out as huge tragedies in American history.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, all that.
MLK Day,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor's one. I mean, if you think about the genesis of Veterans Day and Labor Day, they came out of really, really tough scenarios. But I think that...
And people don't really connect to it, and now you associate it with like a used car sale.
Exactly.
But,
like I can get a mattress for 40% off.
Which is great. I mean, that's a good deal.
Yeah, I'm not knocking it. Like, if they want to have a September 11th discount, I will probably participate.
But it's weird that those things kind of disconnect from the original meaning of,
Absolutely.
It's kind of like when Prince died, and then all of a sudden you saw that they were marketing like clocks that were with the Prince logo, and you're like, Prince would have hated this.
Prince would have hated this.
He would have hated all this stuff.
Automatically, they started playing like Little Red Corvette commercials for the reissue
because they were like, finally, before he wouldn't approve anything, and now everybody's like, finally, we can use this music.
They're like, we can put him on socks.
This is so terrible.
Prince was a cool dude.
He was a cool dude. He was. I remember when he passed, I wrote like a blog post just because he was such an interesting. His approach to business and music was such an interesting.
Changed the game.
One. And it was, I don't think that I share his philosophy on everything, but it was really inspiring to see somebody that, he just did his own thing. He stood up against the music industry when he thought that things weren't, when felt that he was being exploited.
Absolutely.
And that was back in that time. It took a lot of courage to do that because you didn't have the option really to be an independent artist.
There was no such thing.
It didn't exist.
And it broke a lot of glass ceilings for what it meant to be an independent artist, and it allowed a lot of artists to go in a completely different direction. It's weird because we demonize labels for so many reasons, but labels definitely have their place, and they're a part of the music lexicon. I think it's learning how to converse in a way where you don't feel exploited or taken advantage of, but you can still maximize the best product. And I still don't know that balance has ever come to fruition.
Yeah, well, it's different now. I mean, I think that there's not much development that goes on. It's, now if you're going to get a label deal, you already should be at the point where you don't need a label.
Yeah, but if you're in a position where you don't need a label, why are you going to go to one?
Exactly. Well, that was my thing. That's why I didn't do a label, because why would I need a label? And but that's kind of what I encourage people. So I wrote this book, and a big part of it was just kind of telling people. It's going to be out in June.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say, I've been hearing all about this book.
There's a book. It's happening. But a big part of my reason for doing it was just to give people kind of like a 21st century guide to being an independent artist, and trying to get people out, get that notion about getting a label deal kind of out of your head, because when people do that, I mean, it sounds cool, it sounds impressive. It's cool to say that you're a major label recording artist, but it usually doesn't mean anything.
And it doesn't mean anything unless you've already kind of got your own established floor work, which I think is more to the point. Because there are people, Anderson .Paak is a great example. Anderson .Paak kind of had his own thing, and then labels approached him, and then that launched him in a completely different way. But he still already had his own thing, and he had been in the game a really long time before you might have heard of who he was. But in an underground sense, he was already selling out shows. He was already doing well. He had been on several recordings. Yeah,
labels exist, nowadays, to really take what's working and make it work better.
And make it work
on a bigger scale.
Yeah, on a huge scale.
But absolutely, if you're, you're asking the wrong questions. If you're a talented musician and you're saying, how do I get a label deal? Get to the point where
it's not necessary.
Yeah. That's really the answer. And it should be about building a career for yourself, with yourself as the boss, and kind of being your own label. And then, you can take it or leave it. If you want to sign a label deal, it might make sense. It makes sense for some people. If you're in the pop realm, certainly, if you want to be Katy Perry or something like that.
But even then, I think that what's more important these days, especially if you're trying to be an independent musician, is find your tribe.
Yeah.
Your tribe of like-minded people who support your ideas, you support their ideas, and you help grow each other from the floor. To me, that's a better look. It's going to give you better support. And every successful entity I've ever seen has a tribe. You have your tribe. You've had some of the same people in your tribe since day one. Those are your day ones.
Oh, yeah.
And they haven't left your side. You haven't left theirs. So you were able to build something because you were able to identify your tribe really quickly. And then you could grow it. Once you knew what the tribe mentality was, then you could make it into a much larger entity. But every successful entity of music growth that I've seen, especially coming from an independent advantage, whether they went to a major deal or not, started with kind of this group of, this is what we do, this is how we support each other.
Absolutely.
One of the best examples I can give you is a group called the West Coast Get Down that started in a small club in LA, and out of that birthed Kamasi Washington, who's now huge. His vocalist on that record, Patrice Quinn, she released her own album. Ryan Porter, who's an amazing trombonist, released his own album to great acclaim. Cameron Graves released his own album. Miles Mosley got signed and did his own album. He's on his second record. So out of this one collective, you had all of these amazing careers, because they were like, we got your back. We're going to record. We're going to do this. They learned how to produce in-house. They learned how to tour in-house, and they learned how to grow it so that when the labels came, they were like, okay, we'll take your deal, but we have these conditions because we don't really need you. And if we're going to go with you, we want it to grow this entire entity. It's not just, me. We're growing this entire collective, because that's how we're going to break through. That was really smart.
That's really smart. It's almost like a startup in a sense.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I don't know if that's a good analogy, but
No, I think I think it's a great one.
But the idea that you need other people, whether they're musicians or not musicians. I mean, you need even if you're somebody that just makes YouTube videos and you're playing guitar in your bedroom. You need other people. You need people to spread the word.
You need somebody to film it. You need somebody to help you pick out the right clothes. You need
somebody to give you advice and
exactly.
give you and even if even if you're just checking out other YouTube channels and seeing what they're doing and seeing what's working for them, I mean, you learn so much by working with other people. And I mean, my experience has been just all A/B testing, and also whenever you have new people coming in, then you get another idea that you wouldn't have thought of by yourself.
Absolutely.
And no matter how smart you are or how good a musician you are or whatever, you're not going to think of everything. And I know that I learned so much just by having different vocalists in, because they approach things differently. You know, your approach to one song is going to be different than, Ariana Savalas' approach to a song, or different than Aubrey's approach. But everybody is coming up with something that's creative and is true to themselves.
And I've learned so much by watching the other vocalists and other musicians here, because they'd have ways of approaching songs that I might not have, because I'm kind of just like the get it in, do it quick, go. And sometimes I would benefit from giving it a little bit more thought and giving it a little bit more emphasis on control, but that's not my strong suit. Which is surprising to a lot of people, because people think like I'm this controlling diva, but I'm not really at all.
No, but what I would say is that in the new album that we did, so I heard you playing with Aubrey Logan. You opened for Aubrey, and you did an arrangement of Zombie. Then I just loved the arrangement. And
oh, thank you.
And it was very different than you normally approach songs. It was, just because it was very measured. It was like you said, it was a slow build.
Well, I kind of thought about it, and I was like, I wanted to go here, and a lot of times when I do arrangements, I'm like, okay, I want you to play it this way, so I try to articulate what I want to say. But I'm not always the best at being like, okay, let me go to Sibelius and write this out.
Right,
do you know what I mean?
No, it's
and I'm
more
trying
instinctive.
to be better about that, but I learned that I work better being like, play this, do this, come down here, build back up. That just seems to work more in my favor.
Right.
One way isn't better than the other way, but I think that you can benefit from learning a multiple amount of ways to approach the same idea.
Totally.
And the more you allow yourself to look at an idea in a way where you would never ever think to do it that way, the more you expand as an artist.
Right. And so then when we did record it, and I approached you and I said, I want to put this, normally I do all the arrangements for PMJ stuff, but I just loved this arrangement so much, and it felt right to put it in on the new album.
Well, thank you.
And
That
I'm
really
really
meant a
psyched
lot.
for the video. And when I put out the album, I got an email from my mom, and she's like, the arrangement of Zombie, that was just beautiful. That was my favorite on this. And I'm like, well, that was the one I didn't do, Mom.
But you played the heck out of the bass. So.
Don't tell the people that. They don't know that I played the bass on that one.
Sorry, scratch that.
Yeah, that was funny. But that video is going to be out in a couple of weeks, and I'm excited for you guys to see
It was
Miss Maiya
a lot
Sykes
of fun to do.
on
It was a
that.
lot of fun to do.
Definitely. Let's do another song.
Alrighty.
Let's do, I don't know, maybe something, what have we done? Let's do something kind of upbeat.
Alrighty.
Could be jazz, could be like a Motown-y kind of thing. It
What
could be,
Motown-y things? Let's see. This is when I get in trouble, because I know so many songs. I'm like, and then I blank on songs when I'm like, oh
No,
crap,
this is
let's
it's a common thing. I always say that it's always with people that know a lot of songs. It's like you don't know where to begin. It's like you got too many options.
Let's see. Okay, you said Motown. Do you know Dancing in the Streets, maybe?
Sure, yeah.
All right, let's do that.
What key would you do that in?
I'm trying to think what the original key is. Calling out around the world. I think that's the original key.
Yeah.
Well, I'm calling out around the world. Are you ready for a brand new beat? Summer's here, the time is Sweet, sweet music. Got music everywhere. There'll be records playing, people swinging, dancing in the street. No, it doesn't matter what you are, just as long as you are there. So come on, every guy, grandma, girl, everywhere around the world they will be dancing, dancing in the street, all across LA. Every day they're dancing in the street. What about in Atlanta? They're dancing in the street. Out in the streets of Brazil, they're dancing in the street. We're dancing in the street.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was fun.
That was a good one.
I haven't thought about this song in a while. You know, that's always kind of like the original song where they call out all the cities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like, what's that Pitbull song, International Love?
International love.
But
Yeah.
he only lists U.S. cities.
Pretty much.
He says like Miami and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's not really international.
Fair.
But-
You know, you could throw in at least one other continent. Just
Yeah,
one.
any-
But, you know,
anyone will do.
he did what
But
he could, and he's made way more money than I have. So
He's doing something
maybe
right.
I shouldn't critique
Doing something right,
Mr.
Pitbull.
305.
We have that's actually his streaming award on the mantle there.
Nice.
That was yeah. We were at the streaming awards and Jaron kind of got a little bit drunk and he just took Pitbull's trophy. He's like,
That's
check out that guy."
awesome.
It was
That's
pretty hilarious.
awesome.
And it was like we had just first moved to LA.
That's
and
awesome.
We were like, all right, well, let's put this on the mantle.
Well, it's not like
Let's,
he's called you to get it back. So
yeah, yeah. I think Pitbull's gonna be okay. So there we go. Maya, this was really fun.
this was totally
Yeah,
fun. Thank you
had a
for
blast.
inviting me.
Yeah, I want to do this again. We should
Yeah,
definitely
for
do this again.
sure.
I could talk for a long time, way too long, with you. But I want people to follow you now. So where can
Alrighties.
people find you?
Let's see.
Let's start with Facebook.
All right. On Facebook, I'm Maiya Sykes Entertainment. That's my fan page.
Okay.
And I kind of took it down because I redid some photos, so I'm going to put it back up tomorrow.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's up, but like it'll be cuter tomorrow.
Yeah. Check it tomorrow.
On Instagram, I'm Maiya Sykes. My name's weird to spell. It's MAIYASYKES. There was a lot of vowels in my first name. My mother was really into Hindu meditation, and my particular spelling of my name means the essence or the light of God in Hindi. Yeah.
That's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, I try. I mean, I can only be the essence or the light like every third week, but you know, I make it work. Let's see. On Instagram, I'm Maiya Sykes. On Twitter, I'm Maiya Sykes1 because I had some weird fan and she made a page. It's fine. And then my website's MaiyaSykes.com, and it'll be up in 2 weeks. So I'm kind of excited because I took it down to redo everything.
Yeah.
I kind of have these moments where I'm like, it's almost like spring cleaning for my social media where I'm like, I hate everything.
It's important to go through. You
I
gotta do
don't
that.
have a Snapchat, I'm sorry. And I don't have a LinkedIn.
Don't send her snaps.
I don't have a LinkedIn.
Don't
I keep
find her on
getting-
LinkedIn.
I keep getting requested for that, and that probably means I should make a resume, but I'm lazy.
You don't need a resume. Just people can just listen to you sing. And you have music out as well?
Yeah,
Stuff?
I have a band called The Endangered. So all of our stuff is on Spotify or iTunes. And then I'm working on some original stuff. It's not quite done yet. So I'm hoping that some of the original stuff will be done in June. And then I'm hoping the big band record will be done in September.
That's going to be awesome.
So I'm working on a big band record that's a kind of an amalgamation of a couple tributes. So basically it's focusing on Nancy Wilson and Cannonball Adderley. And then I'm writing this show because it's Ella Fitzgerald's 100th birthday coming up on April 20th. So I'm doing this show that I got asked to make that kind of does a retrospective of her career. She was really a fascinating woman, and I know that a lot of people know her for her amazing scatting ability, but a lot of people don't know what an amazing band leader she was or what a boss she was. I mean, she became a band leader at 21
That's crazy.
because the
Yeah.
band leader died, and they still
Wow.
had to keep the tour dates.
That's amazing. I knew she started young. I didn't realize that.
She started at 16 with Chick Webb, and then Chick Webb died when she was 21, but they still had Europe dates. So then she became the band leader.
So she took over the band.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So follow Maiya Sykes so that you can get posted about all these things.
And
you
I'll
can get
say
notified.
actual things. Sometimes I'm not the greatest at being like, my gig's tonight, come. But I'm getting better at being like, my gig's in 2 weeks, come.
That's it. Just incremental improvement. That's all.
That's all we can
it
ask
is.
for.
Just show up and things get a little bit better. That's the
motto that I
motivation.
YOLO.
Just exactly. Love it. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
See you guys.